Hey everybody, welcome to today's video. My name's Ryan, Max Afterburner channel. For those of you who haven't been here before, I'm a former F-15E combat fighter pilot, F-16 Thunderbird pilot, and I haven't made a video about UAP experiences yet on my channel. And the reason why is because, well, I've been focused on other things, but also there has been a bit of a stigma for fighter pilots that have come forward and talked about these things. But obviously recently, over the last few years, I feel like that stigma has been removed. And now I'm ready to talk about it. I'm ready to tell you what I've seen specifically with two different encounters. I wish I had footage of this. I don't. So sorry about that. Plenty of other videos that I have on my channel if you'd rather watch something else with actual footage from war zones, war stories, and that kind of thing. But this one will basically be my personal experience, and I'll use some AI images to kind of recreate what I remember seeing during these UAP encounters. So I started out flying the F-15E. I went through Air Force pilot training. I got the F-15E, which is a two-seat combat aircraft, and I flew that in combat. I flew over 70 combat missions. It was incredible. I would do it all over again. It was a wild way to live. It was a wild time. But I got to fly close air support on 70 different combat missions. And then I've flown some of the fastest jets in the world and the most maneuverable jets in the world, the F-16, and I flew precision stunts in the F-16 for roughly 3 years, 2 show season years, and then getting trained and then instructing. So last 6 months on the Thunderbirds, you're an instructor. So that's when I left the Air Force and moved into the Air Force Reserves. But these particular encounters are ones that I just wanted to share. I thought they're kind of cool. There's differences. They're very different, actually, the two encounters. And I think it's just exciting for me to be here with you all telling you about this. So I'll give my rendition of the story, and then you can make your own decisions as to what they were. So let's dive in. And yeah, I'll say I've flown in combat. I've flown in air shows all around the world. And still, these two flights are some of the most memorable flights I've ever had. So between the combat missions, the low levels, flying at 600 knots, 100 feet off the ground, you know, I still remember these two UFO or UAP encounters just like it was yesterday. And I think that might be the case for a lot of fighter pilots. When you see something weird, something odd, there's something that's so different about seeing a UAP. It's so different from what we've studied. You know, I spent hours and hours of my life sitting in vaults, studying the different threats I might see, the different missiles that might be shot at me, the ways that aerial combat would be enacted on me from Russia, China, around the world, thinking about these other nations' militaries that would go up against me. But I never thought about a UAP, what that would look like, what that mission would feel like. So during the encounters, it's definitely wild to just remember like a photographic memory. Like I feel like I don't have a photographic memory when it comes to most things. But when it comes to these missions and these two particular encounters, I feel like I can remember them with extreme detail. So today I'll share both stories. And the first one is what I like to call a lightning fast triangle. And that is, it looked to me like a mini advanced futuristic fighter jet that was like a 3D triangle with kind of the front of it looking like an A-frame, but then being sleek and smooth in the front, and then having wings. So it had wings underneath the triangle and then a tail that went straight up. But the coolest thing about this probably is that I was doing a Thunderbird training mission when this happened. So we had flown our training mission, and for those of you who don't know, the Thunderbirds practice relatively close to Area 51. You know, we practice out in the Nellis airspace. It's outside of Las Vegas, and there's lots of crazy stuff that's been reported out there. But this was interesting because it happened once we got closer back into base. So what the Thunderbirds do is as we get closer into base, we form up into a formation of 4 of us or 6 of us, however many of us are flying that day. And then we do what's called a Thunderbird pitch. You come in low, sometimes as low as 150 feet, 100 feet above the ground, and you do a pitch up in succession, and it looks really cool. So that's what we were doing this day. We were coming back in, and this lightning fast triangle blitzed past me as we were setting ourselves up on a final. So the runways in front of us, we're setting ourselves up on a final. And then whew, I just remember seeing this thing go massively fast past me. And that's different from the second experience that I'll tell you about. This first one, I could tell that this craft was moving completely opposite of the direction I was moving. And basically like it had done like an intercept or a dust off maneuver. So maybe this was like its way of having fun, saying like, hey, this should be Top Gun 3. You get dusted off by a UAP. It blew past and it was kind of like breakneck speed. So I'm like, whew, and I can remember kind of slowing down time, like temporal distortion. And it was like super fast. And then ka-chink, like picture like ka-chink, 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 ka-chink. And I'm seeing this thing like just a few milliseconds, felt like it lasted like 5 seconds. Cause I could literally, I was so shocked by seeing the outline of this thing that it just made time slow down. It's the best way I can put it. And one of the also cool things about this is the paint job that was on it. It reminded me of something from like Monster Garage, where it was like a Cybertruck, is what I would compare it to. It was silver that maybe made it look like it was machine welded together, but it was so futuristic looking that it also didn't make sense that it had welding on it, but it looked like it was unpainted. That's the best way I could put it. Silver, unpainted, shiny, reflective. Yeah, kind of like a Cybertruck. That's crazy. But also the fact that I was in tight formation, it was also another just shocker to me, because I couldn't keep looking behind me. I basically got those screenshots of it, ka-chink, 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 as it's going past, and then it was gone. And I was like, oh, I really want to know what that is. But I was also looking at the jet next to me and staying in perfect formation position and making sure, you know, we didn't bump into each other. So I had to kind of just compartmentalize that, throw it behind me, but it definitely got my adrenaline spiked. And I immediately thought, did anyone else see that? But the F-16, you're in a single jet cockpit and everyone else is looking ahead except for the boss. And that is the leader of the formation. And after we landed, I asked him, I said, hey, did you see anything weird when we were on final, you know, coming in to do the pitch? And he didn't see anything. So again, another situation, you know, as fighter pilots, where if you're in a single seat jet, you can kind of feel like, did I imagine that? But I can remember it as clear as day, some sort of an object that was a triangle shape, and it wasn't fighter jet size. It was definitely smaller. So my immediate thought was some sort of hobbyist drone or something like that, but it unmistakably had flight control surfaces like wings, a tail, and a futuristic triangle look. And it was going very fast. No propeller. This thing definitely had, you know, a jet engine or some sort of propulsion engine that made it go as fast as a jet, not a propeller. And I'm not sure if there's many hobbyist planes that would be going that fast. And surely, like a lot of hobbyist planes that I've seen, they go all out with the paint job. So this one didn't. This one was just silver, reflective, like looking in a mirror. Whew, wild. And it was probably about, I would assume, probably 20 feet away. And the thought that I had was like, this freaking thing's showing off. So this little tiny fighter jet, you know, maybe 10 to 15 feet across with those reflective surfaces, I'm going 500 knots. It's going 500 knots. It's kind of like slight turning into me. And that's something that you would do as a fighter pilot around like terrain or another jet when you have it doped. When you have it doped, you can actually get a little bit closer in game because you know you're going to pass by and you're not going to hit anything. So that is kind of the feeling I had when it passed me. I don't remember seeing anything on my radar, no static or anything over the radio. And again, it goes, passes by and my heart's pounding and I immediately think, did I imagine that? But I can remember it like it was yesterday. So what was this thing? Was it some sort of an advanced drone? Was it some sort of testing that was going on where they're intercepting fighter jets? I mean, I feel like if that was the case, why would they do it over the base? Why wouldn't they just do it when we were out practicing closer to Area 51 and closer to the range complex? But that moment has really stuck with me. And as a Thunderbird pilot, you're trained in ultimate precision. Awareness is, you know, it's the number one thing that keeps you alive. Your whole life depends on it. Everyone else's life depends on it. So I don't feel like I hallucinated that. I feel like my awareness was on point. So let's hold on to that one for a second, and then I'll jump into my second encounter. And this one, to me, was, I would say, even wilder than the first one. So this one happened when I was in a different jet. I'm up at 30,000 feet. I was cruising at probably about 400 knots. It was daytime. The sky was clear, and I'm scanning the horizon, just standard procedure. You know, you got everything else doped. The jet's looking good. Scan outside, looking for other aircraft, looking for weather, things like that. And then just out of nowhere, off the left-hand side, down the wing line, it was a bright object just caught my attention. And I thought it might be really far off in the distance, but I could tell that it was getting bigger as it was coming towards me. So that means it's really close. And it wasn't moving on the windscreen really much at all. And that's actually something that we train for a lot as a fighter pilot or any type of jet pilot, is if something's not moving on your canopy, it means you're on a collision course with it. So immediately I thought I was on a collision course with something. And I kind of had this moment where I'm like, we're up at 30,000 feet. There shouldn't be anything else up here. What is happening? So a moment of like my eyes just kind of getting wider. I put my hand on the control stick. I'm about to turn off the autopilot. And then I realized we weren't going to hit it. And all of a sudden it came more into view, and it was a rectangle shape. This was like a essentially perfect rectangle shape. Maybe I would assume probably like 30 to 50 feet high. It was bright white along the outside edges, and it was like the outside edges were glowing. And then on the inside, it kind of got a little bit lighter colored, and it went all the way down to like a cream and then a clear center. So cream in the middle and then clear center. I know it sounds like I'm talking about like a delicious pastry, but literally was the wildest experience I think I've ever had, because immediately I thought it might be a weather balloon. So I'm looking for a tether. There's no tether at all. And so then I'm thinking, you know, am I imagining this? But it starts to get closer and closer off of our left-hand side. And it didn't do a breakneck speed thing. It didn't just fly past. It kind of went like a slower motion, which makes me think it was going the same direction as us and not being like a opposite direction, which would make it, give it that breakneck line of sight where it just flies behind you. It definitely wasn't a plane. It wasn't a drone. There was no wings on this thing. There was no exhaust at all. And again, there was no tether, so it wasn't a balloon. And the edges, it was like they were so bright, they were pulsing. And I don't know if that's just an effect that my eyes had to kind of deal with how bright it was on the outside, but it came close enough where I could really see all the details of it. So bright white around the outside, kind of like a pulse. It's so bright. Transitioned to more of a cream color, so it wasn't as bright, kind of in the inner, I would call it like the middle of it, the outer of the middle. And then in the center, it was like clear, like I could almost see like just kind of clear sky through like a little hole, like air was passing through that hole. But again, we're at 30,000 feet, we're at 400 knots. And I don't know, it's like this thing's hanging with us, we don't get the breakneck speed past it. So it was obviously going really quick. But the crazy thing is, so there's no contrail, there's nothing on our weather radar, no static on the radio, and it's completely flat planed. So aerodynamically, this thing shouldn't be going close to 400 knots, right? I mean, if it was oriented down and it had a small sliver going through the slipstream, that would make more sense to me. But it really was defying any type of aeronautic laws that I've learned of. And for a rectangle to be like a barn door, just kind of flying through the air, was a wild experience. So it zooms off of our left wing. So my training kicks in. The whole time I'm like dialed in on this thing, looking to see if it's moving towards us or if we're on a collision course. It wasn't. So we fly past it, check all the sensors of the aircraft. Nothing was off. Everything looked good. Didn't distort any of our electronics, nothing like that. And then since we're talking to air traffic control, I had to give a call to air traffic control. So I'll try to recreate what that call was. It sounded something like this. So I think we were close to Denver. We were actually southern Wyoming. So let's just say I was talking to Denver Center. Denver Center, I need to report something that I just saw. And they're like, okay, go ahead. A little bit like weirdness. They're like, what's this pilot smoking, basically? And I said, I just saw an object. It looked to be about 50 feet tall. It's a rectangle. I've never seen anything like this before. It was at our altitude at 30,000 feet. And I think you need to be aware of this in case any other jets pass through this sector of your airspace. And there was just like dead silence where the controller's like, I really don't know what to say. And then they asked, to their credit, they were like, can you describe it more? Like, what color was it? So that's when I started saying, you know, the edges were bright white, cream in the middle, clear in the very middle. And other aircraft that were around us acknowledged, said they'd look for it. I never heard anything about it. I did see there was a report filed that showed like an anomalous object was spotted in that area around that time. I bet if there's like ATC comm back on that day, it'd be hilarious. Someone probably heard it if someone was kind of scanning the ATC radios. But yeah, this again, it was, to me, it was almost like just like a special experience, I guess. Very odd to see something like that. Never thought I'd seen anything like that before. And it's really cool to be able to share that with you guys. But let's talk about quickly like a breakdown of what this could be. And I'll start with that triangle that I saw. So that on that Thunderbird mission, I fly past that triangle, small, fast, silent. So option 1, classified military prototype, you know, especially with the paint job kind of being like that Cybertruck silver, like they didn't have time to paint it. They're not worried about painting it because it's just one of one. It's a test bed for some other drone. They want to see how it's going to intercept fighter jets. But why would it be intercepting us over the base when it could have just done that where no one would see it? Not over a civilian population. It wouldn't have risked civilian population. So who knows? Could it be like an X-47 drone? They're testing out the drones that are going to fly alongside the 6th generation fighter. You know, it's getting so close to me. Maybe it's using AI to keep separation from me. So it's kind of a no-brainer that it will keep separation from me. So who's ever piloting this thing is comfortable doing that. Who knows? That could have been the case. Option 2. So let's say it's a foreign power, China or Russia, some sort of advanced program. But it doesn't make sense to me that they would get that close to a Thunderbird formation. Like, why a Thunderbird formation? You know, all of our jets are declassified. So if it's a special military program, why not get close to even F-16s that aren't declassified, you know, or F-35s when they're out operating? And there's so many opportunities to do that. If you're sneaking in a drone next to fighter jets undetected, doing it to a Thunderbird jet just doesn't make a lot of sense. So then extraterrestrials, I mean, it's crazy to think about, but like in these two different situations, you know, in one of them, I'm in a fighter jet in the Thunderbird situation. And so whatever appeared there was a little mini fighter jet, small little fighter jet. And then when I'm up at altitude, just cruising along, I was in a bigger jet. And that was kind of like a weird, like bigger UAP phenomenon. It wasn't a little fighter jet going past us. So it matched what I was in. It matched what I was doing, which is very interesting. So let's step to that rectangle, real quick debrief on that. So glowing edges, cream center, the clear spot, and then the speed, you know, of rectangle going 400 knots in the airstream, not getting pushed in any certain sideways direction or flopping or anything like that, just perfectly straight and aligned, like it's doing what it's meant. It's like, I'm supposed to be doing this. So weather balloons, I don't think it would have been pacing us as fast as this thing was. There would have been more of a breakneck speed because it would have been standing still, or it would have been in the slipstream, you know, moving with the air currents. It wouldn't have had that kind of sticking property as something's going a similar speed to you. And then drone, you know, drones don't really hit those speeds or altitudes without some sort of aerodynamic property that would keep it up there. Could it be optics, reflection? I mean, I've seen a lot of visual illusions, you know, flying in the desert, flying along lakes, flying with, you know, mountains reflecting off lakes. And I've seen a lot of different visual illusions. This one didn't look like that. You know, there was nothing that made me think this was some sort of illusion. It was clear as day. It was right down our wing line, 30 to 50 foot object. But let's say it's okay, what would it be if it was an extraterrestrial? So I'm a pilot, right? So I'm not a sci-fi dude. I've never been interested in sci-fi movies, really. This isn't something that I like have fantasized or dreamed up before. But, you know, there's tons of UAP reports out there. I haven't seen anything specific to this rectangle, but a lot of the objects that have been seen out over the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean, they defy physics. So there's no propulsion, there's extreme speeds, there's no signatures, they go against the wind. There's a lot of different things that have happened, like the Tic Tac that was off, I believe, 2004, the USS Nimitz. That Tic Tac UAP kind of moved a bit more like the Triangle. Maybe it was fast, it was agile, and then, you know, who knows? Maybe some of the other pilots have seen something similar, and them seeing this video will help them tell their story. You got the Navy gimbal video, and there's supposedly been somewhere around 800 UAP reports just since 2021. A lot of them unexplained. So science says it could be advanced tech, human or not. You know, going against aerodynamics to me definitely blows my mind. Anti-gravity, something that cloaks radar. I didn't see anything on the radar, especially in the fighter jets situation, but I was also in formation, so not necessarily staring at my radar. But I think it's just important for pilots to have these discussions, and I think it's healthy to raise these questions and share stories. So, you know, for me, if you're not revealing anything about national security, you're not, you know, revealing anything about classified information, then sharing these encounters is actually really cool. So thanks for giving me the opportunity to share these with you guys. What do you think it was? Do you think it was some sort of secret tech, foreign aircraft, you know, secret tech from the US, a foreign aircraft from some other nation, or something extraterrestrial? Go ahead and you can drop your theories in the comments. I read all the comments, especially an hour after the video releases. I'll try to respond to them, but I try to read all the comments at the end of the day. So let me know what you think these things were. It's just fun to share the story with you guys. And then check out another video. Check out this video that'll pop up right here. I'm doing lots of different videos on geopolitics, current events, military tech. Enjoy sharing these stories with you guys. I'll have stories coming up soon about war stories. So I know you guys will love some of those coming up. You've asked for some of those. So thanks again for watching, guys. We'll catch you in the next video. It's Ryan, also known as Max Afterburner, signing off.